This release of Peakto introduces a new concept called collections of albums or folders. If you're familiar with collection sets in Lightroom or folders in Apple Photos or Capture One, this will sound very familiar to you. It's the ability to organize albums inside hierarchies of folders in order to keep up things tidy and to group things together. So if we look at my albums hierarchy here, I've created a folder called Tracking, which contains an album, a subfolder, which in turn contains some album too. And I can move things around. For example, I suppose that Iceland is part of Tracking. I can move things inside our hierarchy. I can move folders in and out, create new folders by using Control-click. Actually here on a folder, new folder. I can also access that from the menu, new folder, or from the plus button here, new folder. The nice thing about folders is that they let me view all the content of all the albums that are inside the hierarchy. So if I look at Tracking, for example, there are 31 representations in that folder. Why? Because there is one album here with 6 and 2 other albums that are part of this hierarchy, which contain 25 representations, so that's 31. So it's a way for me to organize things and to navigate inside my inside collections of albums. One cool thing as well is that you can take a folder and drag and drop it to the Finder. So if I go to my desktop, I now have a Tracking folder which contains all the previews of all the images that were in Peakto. So that's a quick way for me to export a whole collection of images. The next feature I want to demonstrate has to do with the management of selection. In previous releases of Peakto, we were not doing anything particular when you were making a selection. Now, starting with this release, every time you select something, we record the event. That means that you can undo the selection. This is quite convenient because you can navigate through your images, and then suppose you want to go back to a previously selected images. You don't have to think about where it was. You can just undo and it will move back to all your previous selections. So this is quite handy as well if you make certain types of operation with selections, then you change completely context, do something else, maybe add things to an album, and then you want to go back to what was your previous selection, and it all works using undo, so you can navigate through that. We've also fixed a number of bugs that were linked to selection, and we've introduced a very welcome deselect all, which, as it says, lets you deselect whatever is currently selected. I want to finish this video by reviewing a few things regarding the UI and as well some preferences that were added. First of all, with the UI, please take a moment to have a look at the various shortcuts that were re-established for Peakto, because they let you really quickly go to a specific type of filter or a specific type of view. So for example, if I'm here and I want to do some filtering by date, if I hit the C shortcut, it will open the date panel for me, where I can do my date filtering, for example. Same for the keywords. By hitting the K button, it will automatically move to the keywords section. Even if this section is closed, it will open it for me. The I key lets me toggle the inspector. The S key lets me toggle the source, so I can really use those keys to configure my workspace. And of course, we have the standard grid G, like in Lightroom, key to set the grid, panorama P to move to the panorama view, and of course, when I have an image selected, I can click on D for the detail view on that image. Going back to the grid with the G key, I want to show one of the new preferences that were added in this release. If you click on, if you bring up the contextual menu for an image and you go in the Edit In menu, you can see that in previous version, this menu was basically showing all the apps that were that could open a RAW file or could open a JPEG file. It depends on what kind of file is selected underneath, and that's way too much for me. So now we've added a new preference screen called Applications, where you can decide what are the apps that you really want to use when you do some sort of editing. So I'm going to remove all the apps that I'm not using, or that I access by some other way. Okay, I'm going to leave Pixelmator. I'm going to leave Preview, remove QuickTime, and maybe keep Topaz Sharpen AI. Right. So now if I click again on the edit, I'm getting a much more manageable list of apps that can process that image, and based on the content, whether it's a RAW file, whether it's a JPEG, some more apps will show up. We do some internal filtering on the apps capable of processing the file that is underneath. That's all for now. We look forward to showing you more new features in upcoming videos. Bye bye.